Good evening, everybody, and welcome once more to the Open Door Show. Nice and calm this evening. Let's not get too excited. Been a busy day, isn't it? Pouring with rain, you know, not wonderful weather. But look, you're here now, so welcome to the Open Door Show. And of course, I'm here with the other half of propertyCEO, Mr. Ian Child.
Well, good evening, everybody. Hope you're well. That was a very rousing introduction. Thank you.
Well, I thought I'd just go calm, and then I thought I'd build it up. Anyway, look. My name's Richie Clapson. You can see that on the screen. He's Ian Child, or whichever way he's. I don't know sure which way he is on your screen. He's sat on one side. On my side, he's actually on my right, but he could be on your left. Who knows? Anyway, look, it's great to have you here. And just in case this is your first time, and give us a wave if this is your first time. But give us a hands up if this is your first time this evening. And also, give us a hands up if you can hear and see us. Yes, some hands going up. That's good. Hands up. Yeah, it's good. A bit slow this evening. Come on, a bit slow. You know, we could do it a little bit more effort. You could do those a bit quicker. Okay, we'll let you off for now, though. Okay, so look, our aim is to give you 45 minutes of non-stop positivity. And it's all set around the theme of business and property development. Isn't that right, Mr. Child, sir?
It certainly is, Mr. Clapton. Richie and I run a company called propertyCEO. And basically, our job is to train people how to become successful small-scale property developers. So lots of amazing opportunities out there right now, particularly for new developers coming into the market. So we want to help people find out more about those opportunities and basically see if development might be a good fit for them.
That's right. And of course, you know, we're still in the pandemic, aren't we? But we're getting out of that. There's light at the end of the tunnel. So come on, let's be super enthusiastic and positive. I know, hands up, who's had the vaccine? No, I haven't. I don't know whether you guys have. Yeah, look, there's a few have. I'm not going to read you out, but look, some of you look like you're all good. Probably a few of you don't even want to bother. Probably some of you anti-vaccine people. Well, this is not a political show, so we're not worried about that. We're not going to touch on whether the government's doing a good job or a not job. We're not even interested in that. But look, here's the thing. Recessions are always great opportunities, and these obviously come off the back of this pandemic, but only for those that seek them out at the start, rather than waiting around for everything to settle down. So, as always, we'll be serving up some predictions. We have a guest next week. Actually, we'll tell you about that shortly if you hang around to the end. Anyway, but above all, we're going to have a bit of fun doing it. But it is a question and answer show. Okay,
oh, yes.
Yeah, you have to answer the questions. Sorry, you have to ask the questions. That was the wrong way around, wasn't it? You ask the questions, and we'll do our utmost best to answer them. If we can't answer them, we'll just skip over them and see what else comes up. But of course, if there's no questions, we can't answer them. I do see that Mansour's already got a question straight in the chat box already. And let's see who's on this evening. So Ranjit's on, Dan's on, Clive's on, Tony's on, Mark's on, Tanya's on, Karen's on, Liam's on, Jamie's on, Steve's on, Rob's on. Hello, Rob. Good evening to you. Look, there's more coming on as we're talking. Matthew's just joined. Hello, Matt. Speaking to you earlier today, and you've come on to Open Door this evening. Can't get enough, eh? There we go. Look at that. Donna's on by looks of it. Rory's on. Hello, Rory. Mansour's obviously on, as I just mentioned him. Roma, and hopefully Richard's with you as well. So welcome. Dan says, good evening, gents. It's nice when people say good evening to us. They might get a chance of getting mentioned. Paul says, evening, gents. Let's go to it. Any guest speakers tonight? No, Paul, no guest speakers tonight. Bob, myself and Ian. Do you think that's not good enough?
Well, Paul mentions it every week. So, but Paul, if you patience will be rewarded, I assure you. We have guests coming.
Absolutely. Hello and good evening, says Yvonne. And evening, gents, says Steve. So that's quite nice, isn't it? People are putting in. And hi, says now I've got to get that right. Priyanka? I don't know if I've got that right. If I haven't, I do apologize. But you say hi and I say hi back. So that can't be bad. Good stuff. Hey all, says Matt. I'm not sure what that means. And good evening, you lovely people, CEOs from Ranjit Singh from Property Investor News. What a wonderful magazine that is. Anyway. Let's kick on. We've got lots to do tonight because we're going to be doing a bit of news items and then we're going to be talking about something because obviously I'm going to guest speaker, which Paul seems to be complaining about. And so we're going to talk about a subject and then we'll take some questions from the floor. Okay, shall we do some news items?
Sounds like a plan. What you got?
I got two news items here. So interesting. It's all on the same theme. One here from Property Week. M&S, Marks and Spencer's, that is, or Saint Michel, as for some people might call it, to cut retail space and add offices as part of the Marble Arch store redevelopment. So M&S, this is their flagship store. What's interesting here is they see this massive reduction in retail requirement. So they're going to cut a lot of their retail space and they're going to put offices in it. Now you might think, well, what's that got to do with us as developers? Look, it just talks to you about bringing this mixed use back into the high street. Okay, so Oxford Street, as a lot of people will know, Oxford Street in London, Marble Arch store, you know, it's primarily retail. Yes, there are smatterings of offices around, but they're going to bring a big office element in. And I suspect it'll be a mixture of all sorts of office sizes and units and ways to rent and lease them. What does that mean? Well, it starts to talk about regeneration of high streets, and I suspect then that will mean off the back of that, more residential will perhaps come in to Oxford Street. It's just another little sign of all this stuff that's going on in the high street. And then another article I saw, this was in Planning Magazine. This is really interesting. Similar theme. A consent for replacement of Home County shopping centre with high-rise 653 home scheme. Now, I know we're not asking you to go and do 653 homes, but basically this is talking about a shopping centre in Maidenhead, I think it was, in Berkshire, which they're going to demolish, okay? They're going to demolish this whole shopping centre and actually only going to have, or there's going to be 50% of the retail that was there before, so 50% less. And the rest of it's going to be homes, 653 homes. A major inner city shopping centre being demolished, half the retail, all new homes. Very similar to the M&S thing. This is because what you need, you see, for small developers, you need the big anchor stores, like shopping centres do. They need anchor stores to go in. You need anchor developers to go in. 653 homes, okay, you know, a cut in retail space, but still retail space. M&S doing some office space. Great opportunity then for small developers to come alongside that, exactly in the same way that you get large retail anchor stores, you get boutique stores going around them because they bring people to the centre. So those are my two interesting news items. What about yours, Mr. Child?
Well, I do fear that I've followed a little bit of a theme in my first one, so I do apologise. But it's this one's about John Lewis. This was a particular article in Property Week, but of course it's been all over the place. They have announced their first ever annual loss, and it's a whopper, 517 million in the red. Not all stores are going to reopen after the pandemic, after lockdown. They're kind of blaming it on the pandemic, and yeah, a decision at the end of March in terms of which stores they're going to keep and which are going to remain closed. But I think it just sort of adds to the general story that Richie, you were saying there. You know, we're seeing the high streets change. And it's starting at the top. All of the stores we've talked about over the last few months that have basically gone to the wall, closed down, been bought up by internet brands, and we've got these other stores like M&S and John Lewis in the same situation. So it's all change. And so to rather than sort of stick with retail, my second one is about bungalows. We don't really talk about bungalows very often, but it's a story that comes from McCarthy Stone, who build kind of retirement living properties. And apparently over the last 20 years, bungalow building has gone from 10,000 units a year down to 2,000, but demand is actually going up. They reckon that 70% of over 65s are considering living in a bungalow. And basically McCarthy Stone are kind of lobbying for more sort of planning rules around bungalow building, because there's not a great incentive at the moment for people, developers, to build bungalows. So they're looking for government to cut them a bit of slack with the rules. But it's quite interesting how I think it's been in particular, just in this last year, there's been quite a big increase in the demand. And I guess that's linked to some of the way where people are feeling after the pandemic in terms of the sort of properties they want to live in. Seeing quite a few changes across the market there, as we've sort of reported on before. But yeah, bungalows in demand. So maybe that's one of the things you can have on your radar if you're developing in the future. There we go.
Yeah, I think I might go for a bungalow. I mean, it's saving me going upstairs. Save me going up. I find our office is all on one level. We're in a nice old barn out in the country, and I go home, I have to go up and down stairs. I get quite tired at my age.
Exactly. But you haven't had the jab yet, so you're still young.
Not yet. Not yet.
Right. But you're going to be telling us all about why we shouldn't go large when it comes to development, aren't we?
Yeah, you go large when you're at McDonald's if you want, but I don't think you can do that. You get big milkshake and chips or something, or fries. Sorry, fries. Sorry, not chips.
So come on then. Okay. What's the story?
Why you shouldn't go large. So let me just give you a few minutes on this just to whet your appetite, okay? Bigger developments equal bigger profits. Well, You know, is that what people like? Is that what people want to do? Well, yeah, okay, people do, but that's not what you should be doing, okay? Let me give you an example. That's all I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to keep it simple because I'm a simple person. So I just want you to listen carefully, okay? Pay attention, and I'll speak reasonably quickly, but fairly quietly, so you can just take it all in. Let's consider two developers, okay? Developer one, he does one large project with a £1 million profit. Write these down if you want. One large project with a £1 million profit. That's roughly a 5 million GDV, okay? And that project, let's say it's made up of one-bed flats, around 150k each. It's about 34-ish flats. So there we go. Okay, don't start running the numbers and criticizing me, but let's say it's 34 flats, 150k each. Now imagine, okay, use your imagination here now. Let's say circumstances change. The project was on site. Let's say it was on site but not finished, okay? But pretty much everything is really near enough done. But it's not quite finished, so he can't actually sell anything, okay? So he's got nearly maximum funding out, and then the project is stopped. He's had to stop right then. Maximum funding, hasn't sold any of the 34 flats because they're not finished, not all connected up or whatever. So let's assume, okay, 5 million, his profit's going to be about 1 million. He's going to have about 4 million out, roughly, okay? And if that was out at 8%, that would be about £320,000 per annum, which is about 27,000 a month. And if he stopped for 6 months, he'd lose £160,000. So if his project had to stand still for 6 months, he'd lose £160,000. Let's take another developer, developer 2, okay? Now she does 4 small projects. Small is beautiful, okay? 4 projects at 250,000 profit each. Okay, so she's basically got the same GDV, okay? And each of those projects, you know, all tots up, so it's £1 million. And each of those projects has got about 8 or so flats in, 8 or 9 flats at 150k each. So, okay, we've got virtually the same numbers. Now, let's think about the projects. So she's got 4 projects on. Project 1, well, she's lucky on project 1 because she's already sold out and she's got £250,000 in the bank, £250,000 profit in the bank. Project 2, partly sold out, okay, and 125k in the bank, but there's no ongoing cost because she's in profit now, so all the finance has been paid back. She's just waiting to sell out the last units and get the last bits of profit. Project 3, a little bit of a problem on project 3. It's on site. It's got maximum funding of about 1 million, about 8% again. So that's about 80,000 a year, 6,500 a month. And let's assume that stopped as well for 6 months. Well, that's about £40,000, there or thereabouts, okay, circa £40,000. So she's out on that project. And then project 4, well, she's purchased it, but she's not started it, okay? So she's purchased the land. So she spent about 500k, let's just say, okay? And that's out at 8% for argument's sake. And okay, that's 40k per annum, 3k a month. So that's about 18k if it stops for 6 months. So developer 2 has got everything stopped for 6 months. And actually, she's going to cost her £58,000. Well, compared to developer 1, and developer 1 is unfortunately going to lose £160,000. Same profit, same GDV, same time scale that they've had to stop their projects for before they can do anything. So look at that, there's £100,000 difference in loss, okay? Now you might start saying, yeah, probably shouting at, yeah, but it's a lot cheaper. You're going to make more profit out of one big scheme, you know, economy of scale, all that sort of stuff. Shout at me all you want. I can't hear you. It's a webinar. Okay. But then let's have a think about developer number 2, because she sat there and she sold out of property 1, 250,000, property 2, £125,000. She's got £375,000 liquid cash sat in the bank. So she's not only lost just 58,000 as opposed to 160, but she's got £375,000 sat in the bank. Which would you prefer to be, developer 1 or developer 2, him or her? And that ultimately is perhaps the example you want to be thinking about, because if you go big, and you're, I'm going to go large. I've heard someone say, well, go large or go home. That's just rubbish. This is rubbish. Okay. If you stay small scale and run those sort of numbers, you're spreading your risk. This is what all businesses do. You spread your risk out across all the projects. Is that not good? Is that not a good place to be? Is that not a good business proposal? Rather than have all your eggs in one basket. Who's heard that phrase? All my eggs in one basket. That's what developer one's got. Now, it looks great. It's easier to manage, probably quicker to find, but all your eggs in one basket. So that's my little story. That's all I really want to do. I know it's simple. Maybe you're expecting more, but that's why you shouldn't go large. And I'm just going to end that before we do some questions, because I can see questions popping in. Okay. I'm going to end that with, that actually is a real story. That's actually 2 developers that I know. And more or less, the numbers and the deals are about that. And that's what happened to them in 2020 when the global pandemic hit. And I can tell you one of them, developer one, was extremely stressed. And I felt for them, extremely stressed, all their money out, no end, didn't know what was happening. Developer two was pretty chilled, sat with a glass of vino, wasn't too worried, £375,000 liquid cash, everything's pretty chilled. Which one would you rather be? 1 or 2? There we go. There's a reason why you should go large. Nice and simple. A bit of story. We all like stories. So should we go for some questions, Ian? Because I know people are asking questions.
We've had quite a few questions come in.
Good. Let's go for them.
Should I kick one off? I've got one here. This is from Jamie. And Jamie asks, is it more difficult to find 4 projects than one large one? Also, isn't there less competition for bigger projects? Well, I think the thing, Jamie, is that there's more work involved in finding 4 smaller projects, for sure, because you've got to find 4 different ones. It's fair to say, though, that there are likely to be more smaller projects around. So the ratio of opportunity, there's more smaller ones than there are larger ones. But ultimately, this is all about kind of risk. So with small projects, yeah, we're not overextending on any individual project. We haven't got all our eggs in one basket. So if there is an issue, it's only it's a bump in the road that might affect one of them rather than your entire business. And I think the other thing that's quite interesting, this came from what Richie was saying there, is that, of course, if you've got projects at different stages, then you're kind of mitigating risk there as well. You're not necessarily putting lots of projects in the market at the same time. You can make sure that the flow of income that you're getting from selling your units is kind of staggered, because you've got 4 projects rather than one, which is going to be a massive, great big influx of cash when you finish the project, rather than spreading it out more evenly. In terms of, I think, competition, I'd say that in the small scale area, there's I think there's a sweet spot. I think that if we're looking at really small stuff, then you're going to be competing with self-builders and jobbing builders who are going to be doing things like hospital projects, and they don't need to make a profit, whereas you do. So that's going to be challenging. Above the small scale stuff, we've got medium and large house builders who need bigger projects in order to basically pay their bills. They're looking for much bigger stuff. The small stuff is, I think, the sweet spot. So I think whilst there is always competition, that I think in that sweet spot where we're doing a relatively small number of units and a relatively low GDV, there is a great opportunity. And whilst it's competitive, you've got some great chances there to really get some good deals. So there you go, Jamie. Hope that helps.
Good stuff, Jamie. That's good. Helen says, well explained. Thank you, Helen. And Mark says, good story, Richie. Which friend were you and which friend was Ian? Well, I'm happy to report it was neither of us. Okay, these are 2 completely people. These are well-established developers that I know. Okay, well-established developers. Okay, next question. Chris says, good evening, Chris. He says, in the example, you talked about the extra interest costs, but is it not right that you don't have to pay the interest to the end? So not such a problem. You don't have to pay it to the end, Chris. You're going to roll it up, but you still lose the money. It's got to come off. Okay, so that interest will be there, and that 160,000 that developer one actually lost, circa there or thereabouts. Okay, I have to confess I tweaked the figures slightly just to give the exact example, but they're more or less the same. It was uncanny. But yeah, you're going to have to pay that out at the end, Chris. He's got to pay. That's coming off the profit, off the back end. But I'll tell you what, even if you forget that, and even if we discount or don't even discuss the fact that you may have to extend your finance and refinance, and that might cost you more, that's another story in itself. which one gives you more stress or less stress? Developer 2 sat with £375,000 liquid cash, or developer 1 with nothing? I think that's the answer to that question. Okay, there's Chris's question I've hopefully answered. Over to you, Mr. Child. You want to pick one?
Well, there's one just to you here. Richie, what do you think is a good project size to start with for a new beginner? Personalized question asking, I like it.
That's to me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to ask. What question should you start as a new beginner? Well, okay. When we talk about small scale, okay, and we're trying to package a project up, and in that definition of small scale, and it is all relative to everyone. So we have some students who come with existing developers with some experience and want to scale up, and we help them scale up. So it's very difficult. But let's say you're completely new. We often talk about a gross development value, a GDV, of between 3/4 and about 1.25, 1.5 million. Okay. Now, what does that give you? Well, it probably gives you 3 or 4 houses, maybe on flat terms, 7 or 8 flats upwards. Okay. And anywhere between 5 and 20 units is a real sweet spot. That's because, as Ian was just talking about, below 5, you get your local builders buying what they call hospital projects to put their guys onto to keep themselves going. Okay, and the self builders obviously down below that. Above 20, often you get your regional players who are often picking schemes up of 30, 40 units. So 5 to 20 is a great little sweet spot. Now, in terms of what that really means in your area in terms of gross development value, then we work out what, say, a 1-bed flat costs, and 5 1-bed flats, that gives you a bit of a GDV. So it's that sort of order. And in terms of profitability, you're probably going to come out as a minimum on a small scale development of around 150,000 profit, but most people are averaging around £250,000 out of their first scheme, there or thereabouts. Whose question was that?
That was William.
William. So there you go, William. Hopefully that has answered your question. Okay, what's next? Do you want to answer one? Do you want to go for one?
I've got one here. Let's have a look. I've got one here from Karen. So Karen says, we've got a long question. I'm looking at flipping a property at the moment. I'm actively looking in all the normal places, Rightmove, on the market, etc. Looking in 2 specific areas. Not happy to look nationwide at the moment, as I have a team in place that will be able to support me within the areas that I've chosen. I'm finding it is difficult to find a property that will give me the return that I'm looking for. Properties are not coming up in the numbers that I need them to. I do not want to go further afield, as I do not have the support network. What would be your advice? Okay, so if you're looking at Rightmove and on the market, then you are going to be missing a fair amount of activity, Karen. I mean, I think one of the things I'd say is that over 50% of deals are sold off market. So it might be sold through agents, but they don't reach the estate agent's window. They don't appear on Rightmove. So whilst you're sitting there looking at Rightmove, there's a lot of activity that's happening between estate agents and their preferred buyers. So you need to basically get out there, build relationships with agents, and become a preferred buyer. That, I think, is going to make a massive difference to your chances, because really at the moment you're arguably looking at the worst half of the market. The stuff that makes it onto Rightmove and in the estate agent's window is the stuff that hasn't sold directly straight out of the blocks. So I would say you definitely want to be building those relationships with agents. A couple of other reasons why numbers don't stack. One is block planning. Are you block planning your schemes effectively? Are you kind of getting the most out of the asset? We kind of teach our students how to kind of sort of sweat the asset so that they can get the most value out of it. And the other part of that is also making sure that you're on top of your numbers. One of the things that we've seen with students before is if they make a kind of a common mistake in the way they do their analysis, and of course it affects every single analysis that they do, and they wonder why every deal doesn't stack. So it's well worth making sure that you've got your numbers kind of nailed on to make sure that it's that they're working for you. So it's not an incorrect assumption that's kind of derailing your numbers. But yeah, make sure you're out there building relationships with agents. I would say that's probably the number one thing that you need to do to enhance your chances and getting more exposure to deals that are going to stack for you.
Good stuff.
Hope that helps.
That's Karen's question answered. She sent that one in. I see, and I see Karen's on this evening. So good evening, Karen. Okay, I also noticed that a couple of other questions that came in, I think we've answered. So Tony said, as far as small projects are concerned, how do you define a small? Hopefully we've done that. Thomas says, what would you guys class as a small project? Well, we answered William's question and we answered yours all at the same time. So hopefully that was good. Let me just pick up this one here. Carolina says, what if you want to go really big in development?
Ooh.
That would be loads of projects at 250K. It would mean a big team to deliver. Not necessarily, it's all relative, okay? So rather than do a scheme with £5 million profit, do 5 schemes with a £1 million profit. That's what we're talking about. We're just talking about not having all your eggs in one basket. And I said, go back and talk about what small scale, as a new developer, stick down at those lower levels that we've talked about this evening, okay? If you're an established developer, or when you establish yourself, and we have, say, existing developers come along and they're not interested in 250,000 profit. They want bigger profits. That's fine. No problem at all with that. The same principles apply. And the principles here of good business acumen is don't have all your eggs in one basket. So do 5 £1 million profit schemes. Carolina, hopefully that answers that question. Let me just pick up this one as well. I'm going to pick two for one here, Ian. I'm going to go for this. Because Mark says, Richie and Ian, I came across the idea of an 18-year property cycle recently. How would you use this on any investment decision making? I wouldn't at the moment, Mark. Yeah, I mean, there are lots of discussions about lots of property cycles, lots of recession cycles and all of that. We're in a funny old time at the moment. I mean, you know, the global pandemic it just throws us out of any of these sort of cycles. And we've got a rather interesting position that we're in as a world economy, let alone the UK, and quite how we come out of that, how quickly we bounce back. What has that done to these cycles? So I think it's an interesting concept. Again, I think if we come back to this sort of comment about staying small scale, I think that is just good business practice, because trying to plan on 18-year cycles or whatever cycles you want to have a look at on historically, it's just looking back. And yeah, there's some real good patterns. But what I'd say, Mark, is I would be very cautious about what one does. Comes back, not having all your eggs in one basket is like developer 2. You know, she was in a position where she was getting cash out. You know, she could take an element of risk. I'd be looking a little bit less in the future going forward. So there's hopefully an answer there. And I'm just going to put this comment in from Helen. She said, and then Ian, it's all over to you. She said, we would all like to make money, but also important, some of us prefer to sleep peacefully in the night as well. So small is beautiful, peace in mind, and manage the cash flow of the business.
Love it.
I think they were talking about me, small is beautiful, but there we go. What have we got now? What's next?
We have got a two-parter. We love a two-parter, and in fact, this is going to split the audience, because I'm going to take the first one. I'm going to hand the second one to you, and this is from Simone. And Simone says, "Good evening, gents. I love your open door sessions." So we love Simone. 2 questions. The first one: what's the structure within a development company? You mentioned last week that property developers don't build houses; their teams do. What are the roles in a development company? I assume would be the director and go out and structure the deals and get the investment. Yeah, so absolutely right, Simone. The prime focus of your role as a developer is kind of as the CEO. So it's a highly leveraged model. We are not obviously laying bricks or even choosing curtains. We're actually got a team of people that we're putting together to do that. In terms of the structure, then you're ultimately in your developments are going to have probably a couple of dozen different disciplines, different kind of trades, if you like, that will be pulled together to make the project happen. It's not 24 people, because some of those disciplines have quite a few people working for them. So it's quite a big group of people, but they're not employees. They're not part of your business. They're simply people that you're pulling in. And in fact, you don't necessarily need to actually have a limited company to be able to effectively be the overarching brand of your development company, your development business. What you will need is a limited company, what they call a special purpose vehicle, an SPV, where an individual project will reside. So if you've got a commercial lender in place, then they will require you to have set up a new company specifically for that project. But the overarching brand of your development business is going to be you as the CEO that's calling all the shots. And absolutely right, your main job is putting the team together. It's finding deals and critiquing deals and analyzing them. And it's also putting together the finance as well. Lots of other sort of moving parts in there that you need to be aware of and you need to control. But one of the massive benefits of development is that, unlike a lot of projects that people do perhaps where they're a landlord looking to refurb a unit or sort of basically they end up project managing deals themselves, in the world of development we have project managers that do a lot of that heavy lifting for us, which is an absolute godsend. And it does mean that yeah, the role that you play in that is a step back. But you do need to build the team, you do need to find the finance, and you certainly need to find the deals. So so hopefully that helps. And then she's got a follow-up question. And this one is, let me see if I can find it. Number 2. I was on a call with a salesperson for a well-known property guru today. Won't name names. Interesting. So I discussed that I am doing sourcing to increase my funds to start buying my own renovation properties. He said that I should definitely go down this route or do buy to lets or rent to rent to get some cash flow coming in, which would make me more mortgageable, and discouraged jumping straight into development. I then mentioned on the call that I'd spoken to another property mentor last week who said that if you want to do development, do development. Your heart isn't in sourcing, so it's probably why you aren't progressing in it. It was refreshing to hear you saying that. You just need to make a decision whether development is a good fit and that you can do property development anytime. Is it advisable to start small, like one house build or a refurb, and work your way up, like a development of 4 houses or a dozen flats? Thank you for your time. That's the second question from Simone. So over to you, Richie.
Oh, I'm doing the second question.
Yeah.
Okay. So Simone, okay, interesting story. Look, first thing is, and Simone, and for anyone else out there, if you want to do property development, just do it. Okay. You get this myth out there that is just in property training circles that you ought to start with sourcing and then you can go for buy to let or rent to rent, and if you're really well behaved, we'll let you do development. It's BS. Do what you want. If you want to do development, do it. Okay, it's a business. It's a business proposition. So absolutely, anyone can just go and do development. And I totally agree with that. If your heart's not in it, why do it? And that, you know, Simone, we've come across that quite a few times where we've had students come to us and they go, "Oh, I've got an HMO portfolio." I go, "How's that going?" "I hate it." I go, "What?" "I hate tenants, and I've also got a service department block." "What's that like?" "I'm an awful, you know." And it's like running a hotel. And I go, "Well, why did you do it?" "I was told I had to. I was told I had to do these stepping stones." Oh, it's just a nightmare. The people go down these roads. It's so frustrating. But to your question in terms of one house build, and then I can see the end of this question here. So like one house build or a refurb and work my way up like a development of 4 houses. No. Okay, no. Remember what we just said, Simone, 5 to 20. Don't go below 5. If you go and I can guarantee you, Simone, and I'll tell you what, I bet you a small bottle of bubbly. No, let's bet a large bottle of bubbly. You can send it to me because you're going to lose out if you take the bet. Okay, that ultimately, if you go out there and search for single unit plots, probably with planning permission, because they're all boxed up, ready to go, okay, you'll never get a deal to stack. And I'll tell you what, you can go away 12 months, come back, and then bring me a bottle of bubbly because it'll be mine, because you won't get one to stack. Because as we talked about it, you know, self-builders buy these, builders buy these. They don't need to make profit like you do as a developer. Start 5 units and above, Simone. That's where you want to be. Yeah, flats, a dozen flats, great, but don't work your way up to a dozen flats. That's really the sort of area you want to be starting at. 4 or 5 flats is probably the minimum, Simone. So yeah, good luck. Definitely, if your heart's not in something else, get into development. Let me just give you a word of warning, Simone. Is it easy? No. Okay. Is probably sourcing maybe easier? Well, possibly. Okay, talking to a student today who said, she said, "Oh my word," she's just about to complete on a project next week, and she said, "Oh my word, there's so much going on. There's so much going on." And I said, "Yeah, well, that's what it's like." But she's looking forward to next week when she's completed. She has a little bit of a rest, but she's going to make £250,000. You don't make £250,000 out of sourcing, do you? So it's not easy. but it's entirely possible. So Simone, there you go. Hopefully that helps. All right, shall I pick one up then? Let's see what we've got next. Okay, let's see what we've got next. Stell says, I think it was Stell, hopefully I've got that right. I like the opening of this question. Says, is permitted development real? We could do that. And that would be a great heading for a show, wouldn't it? Same as having another guest on. Paul would be upset by that, though, won't you, Paul? Paul W. I think there's a couple of Pauls on tonight. Is permitted development real? Stell says, I have gone through my local council planning applications and found over 30 PD applications refused. Not one allowed! Exclamation mark. That's why we're shouting. He says these nearly all related to adding extra units, either 1 or 2 floors, to existing detached blocks, and does not relate to converting existing floor space in commercial units. Okay, that's a little bit of a rant going on here. I am a joint freeholder of a 15-year-old detached block of 3-story residential flats and would like to add at least another floor. Thanks and best regards. Thanks and best regards. Look, so yeah. So if your question is, can you do it? In theory, yes, you can. Okay, there are. Why have they all been refused? So the new airspace rights that we have, we've got AA, AB, AC, AD, and there are rights where you can add extra floors to commercial buildings, residential buildings. There's various criteria. You have to have at least 3 stories. I think you've got 3 stories, so you're fine. But then they can't go above a certain amount of stories. There's floor-to-floor heights. You can't go outside the existing building with the structural strengthening or down pipes. You can't be, you know, your height might be restricted if you're in a certain distance from an airport. And there are some really great clauses like, and don't quote me on this, Stell, but it's things like if your extension affects pretty much any other business or anyone else in the area in any shape or form, we can stop you. They are a little bit grey. And this is one of the problems with Stell. We advise our students not to go down those. In fact, we actually had a training day this week with some of the students. We said, if in your area there's a load of these gone through and you can see what they're tripping up on, what the council are kicking them back on, maybe, but generally this is not an area you want to go to as a new developer because it's fraught with dangers. You're a guinea pig and the council are throwing these out. In theory, if you've got a detached block and it has to be detached, it can't be connected to other blocks. A detached block of 3 stories, residential, you should be able to do it, but there's lots of criteria. Still, what I suggest is you need to get yourself a planning consultant alongside you, which will help you. Hopefully that will give you a bit of a steer. Okay, there we go.
Fantastic. Got one here from Tony, who asked, would it be possible to get into property development while working full time? Well, Tony, yes, it is possible. I think one of the key things, though, is flexibility. If we think about it, there's certainly a lot of things that you can do outside the working day in the world of property development. I talked about it being a highly leveraged business, but your team is going to be working 9 to 5, and so you need to be available on occasion to be able to go on site for sure, have conversations with your team. And if you're in a job where you've got some rigidity, you have to be working at the coalface between certain hours, whatever, and you don't have those opportunities to go to site or to have conversations with your team, then that is probably going to make life very, very difficult for you. So I think the flexibility is the key thing. But particularly I think when you're doing small scale development, and in particular if you're doing it locally as well, then yeah, property development does not need to be a full-time job. You're not necessarily transitioning from one career to another. What you're looking to do in effect is what a lot of people I think have done historically when they've gone into, for example, to become buy-to-let landlords. They've realized that there is a financial gap they're looking to fill for whatever reason, and they've made that jump whilst having a day job or doing something else for earning a living. And in development, it's using property. It's a different model, but ultimately we're not changing our career to becoming a full-time developer unless we actually want to do that. What we're actually doing is creating something that we can do in our spare time, but you do need that flexibility to be able to keep on top of it because it's a serious business, and yeah, you need to be on top of it. So there you go. I hope that helps.
Yeah, Tony. No, and I mean this applies to a lot of people out there. If you're seriously interested in development, but you're not sure if it's for you, you need to get some right advice because it doesn't fit a lot of people. And there are certain people in jobs when people come and talk to us about development, and occasionally I do some calls with people, and I say, no, it's not for you. What you've got going on in your job and your skill set, it's not for you. I don't think you should do this. And people sometimes get a bit upset when I want to do it. I say, yeah, but I'm just giving you advice. I'm just going to try and be honest with you. I don't think it's for you. Tony, if you want to chat with one of our guys, more than happy. One of our team would have a brief chat and give you a bit of a steer, because it really depends on that flexibility. So if you want to have a chat a bit more, just message in the help desk, the team. Just go on our website, message in, and just say, Richie says someone will talk to me. They go, you said what? Yeah. So Tony, if you want to, there we go. Snell says, thank you very much, guys, for his comment. Let's see what else is coming in here. Okay. Do you guys, Thomas says, do you guys see an issue with the new minimum space standards coming in? Makes a lot of PD deals not viable. No, don't see any issues with it at all, Thomas. Okay, because it's a level playing field. So there's a lot of people whinging and moaning, Thomas, about it. Oh, PD rights, all these schemes are unviable. You need things to readjust, okay? So what's happened is all the vendors out there have got used to, so I'm talking about people selling offices or shops. Let's take offices, for example. They've got used to where the levels would be of what developers can put in it if they want to do, say, circa 30 square meter flats. And of course, what the agent's done is pump the price up accordingly, and they know what developers will pay. Well, there's just got to be a readjustment, because if developers can't get as many flats in, and we're all on the level playing field, unless we go for full planning, and you can do 30 square meter flats with full planning, just got to get approval. But why would you want to go down the planning route? You don't, do you? Certainly don't, Thomas. You definitely don't want to do that. So you're going to all be on a level playing field at 37 square meter flats with a shower room. Now, on that basis, what will happen, and it will take a bit of time sometimes, those headline prices will get adjusted. But equally, okay, what you are having is motivated sellers coming into the market. You know, we're just talking about in the news items tonight about the amount of retail space that's been coming available, what's going on, office space. You know, there is a lot of space coming into the market, and there will be motivated sellers who want to sell. I think it's just about a bit of readjustment. So, Thomas, level playing field, I do not see it as a problem at all. I'm going to go on and do another one straight away because we're running out of time. But let me just get through. Let me get through this one quickly, because I've just noticed this one was actually sent in the week, and it's on my schedule here, and I want to make sure I cover it because Linda took the time to write this in, and I ought to answer Linda's questions. Linda says, hi, Richie, hope you are well. Would you be able, I am well, thank you very much. Would you be able to cover anything in terms of how to work out build costs when checking if a deal is worth going ahead with? Oh, that's simple. Yeah, Linda, look, it's simple. You've got to have the right team around you. You've got to know some basic pounds per square meter, okay, to do your developments. You've got to know some basic pounds per square meter to sort out your schemes and what to do. Ian's disappeared. Where's Ian's camera gone? He's just gone off screen. I don't know what's going on there. So you've got to do your, he's not really needed anyway, is he? It's a better show with just me. Anyway, so Linda, you've got to work out some basic pounds per square meter, okay, to go and do that. And you're going to get those off of a cost consultant. That's your initial stage in the funnel. When you're then going to work it out more detail, you need a cost consultant to look at the deal that you're doing. You know, they need to look at that deal with you in terms of how much is involved. What are you doing in terms of specification? Okay, how much structural work's involved? How much mechanical, electrical work? Everything to do with that building. You need to feed some information to them, and it is all about a refinement process as you go down that funnel. So the answer really, Linda, is reach out to some cost consultants. Your screen has gone off, Richie. What happened? Oh, Ian has come back.
Hey, there we go.
Oh, well, my screen has gone anyway. I'm still here as far as I'm concerned.
I can hear you, but I can't see you. I just quite like it this way around.
Okay, well, that's a bit odd because I said that yours had gone off. Well, look, we're pretty much at the end of the show. I turned my camera off and turned it back on. There's obviously a little techie glitch gone in there. So presumably people can still hear me. Yoko's put a smiley face in laughing. Ian has come back. Well, I don't know what's gone on there. That's rather bizarre. No video, chaps. Okay, Rory, we've got the message here. For some reason, there's a little techie glitch going on here. I can see myself, but you can't see me. Look, guys, I think say again, Ian.
Put another 50p in.
Put another 50p in the slot. Audio's okay, says Rory. That's good. I don't know what's happened. Never had this in our this is our 46th show this evening. We never had this, but there we go. Anyway, guys, I think that is about it for this evening's show. Now we can't see you guys, but can hear you both. Okay, Teresa. That's it. We've just gone 7:45. We like to wrap up at 7:45. We'd like to get you away for your evening. That is so important. Please, of course, put in the chat box as we wrap up the end of the show if you've enjoyed the show. That would be really good. Next week, we do have a guest, okay? Oh, but look, we both popped back up on our screen. Look at that. That's amazing. Hopefully you can see us now. We do have a guest next week, and we have the wonderful Rory O'Mara, okay? Rory is he's a great guy. He's a good friend of mine. I've known Rory for a long time. He runs a company called Closed Bridging Finance. He's a financier, okay? He can bring you money for your deals. So we're going to get Rory on next week. So Paul's going to be happy with that. And we're going to be talking about all things finance and what Rory can do to support you. And Rory was even telling me the other day that in some instances, now not necessarily for newbie developers, but for some instances, he can get you 100% finance. That's interesting, isn't it? That's a reason to turn up, I'm sure. Anyway, I think that's about the end of the show. Are our cameras back, guys? Can you actually see us again now? Just give us a thumbs up if you can see us. Hands up. Yes, they can see us now as we end the show. Ian, do you want to say goodbye?
I can say goodbye if you can still see me. Have a lovely week. Look forward to seeing you at, same time next week.
Yeah, so we'll be on same time next week. And let's just see what comments have come in the chat box. Apart from people saying no video. Thanks, gents. Mark says, look forward to next week show with Rory. Wow, another golden nuggets sharing show. Ranjit from Property Investor News. Bye, chap, says Rory. Thanks for a great show. See you with Rory next week, says Yvonne. Thank you again, says Rocco. Teresa says, thanks, guys. Thanks, Teresa. Thank you all. Good night. God bless. See you soon. Bye-bye.